Hi, this is Dan Sater, president of the Sater Design Collection, and I'm doing a short series of video blogs to just talk about what's in a set of plans. Obviously, we have that on our website, some information, but I thought I would go over it in a little more detail for your benefit here. And I have here basically a miniature set of plans. Obviously, if you ordered a hard copy, it would be a little bit larger than this, but obviously if you order the PDF, you could print it in smaller sizes and make it a little more convenient. But for our purposes here, I'm just printing a small study set. And the first sheet that you see included in a set of one of our typical plans is basically the index of sheets, a title sheet. So it would usually have either a rendering or a front elevation of the home, and then it'll have an index here, a list of the individual sheets, what each one is, what sheet it is. And so again, I would take a lot of pride that we do some very detailed set of plans, to give you as much information as possible, make your home building experience to be as painless as possible. But again, no set of plans is perfect. So also, there's a site plan. We usually have the site plan. Oops, excuse me. The site plan here, just showing the outline of the house. Obviously, you would draw your site around it, for reference. But since we don't know, unless you hire us to draw a site plan, we don't know exactly what site, what size it is and where you want to place the home on the lot. So that's that. The next sheet that we have is what we call our typical wall sheet. And it's basically, it has information, like there's some architectural notes here that will talk about kind of like specifications, just general specifications. We do have some optional green notes here if you want to do more green building, where it would have more, maybe even the stud spacing on exterior walls to kind of get a little more value out of by staggering them. But there's some options there you can go by. But it just deals with some basic stuff as far as basic standards, as far as the strengths of the concrete, plumbing. It talks about mechanical information, smoke detectors. It's just some basic code issues that are spelled out here. It's not means you're limited by it, but it just gives a guideline here, some standard things that are basic standard code. We go by the International Residential Code for all of our plans, which is pretty much the nationally accepted codes. However, in your area like Florida, for example, here we are in Florida, we have our own version of the International Residential Code, Florida Building Code, but it starts with this, but adds some additional things, obviously dealing with issues. California would have the same issue. Maybe there's some wind requirements, seismic things that obviously would supersede this, but it's just more of a general information there to kind of give you a base. And then we have in here some typical walls. Usually we do a cutaway through the living area of the home and then the garage of the home. If there's a basement, then we'd probably have a section through a basement. There might be a third typical wall if it's a two-story house. But in here we're basically giving information as far as some basics, as far as parameters, as far as the shingles, the fascia details, what the overhang, roof pitch, and some basic information as far as the finishes, standards of the exterior and interior wall surfaces, and a reference for the design of the foundation and typical walls. Stem wall. Of course, again, these are just basic guidelines that we create because, again, your home, we don't know where you're going to build it. It could be built here in Florida, it could be built in Ohio, it could be built in Colorado, and it's going to have totally different requirements for the foundation. So we always recommend that we give these basic guidelines and framework, but we always encourage a client. It's so important that you work with a local engineer to look at your soil conditions there. Obviously, you might have some in northern climate. You're going to have some frost conditions, so the foundation would have to go deeper to be below the frost line. There's so many different parameters. Obviously, with Florida, we have to worry about tie downs and wind uplift, things like that. Which again, we can't design for every scenario. We're trying to create a general set of plans that kind of has a broad information, basic information to help you and your builder build your home. And then you'll find some typical details, like here's some basic standard window details as far as the headers and flashing details for the base of it. So just some basic window installation details. We have a typical thing like if depending on where the dryer vent is, to create a little box there to recess it, kind of like that, because again, the dryer duct hose, if you create a little recess like this, it doesn't have to be held out from the wall as much because you provided for this dryer vent. Like a water stop at the garage. In the case here being a frame house, there's a garage door buck detail. A lot of standard details. Some of the plans, depending on the size and complexity, may have a second sheet that has additional details. There might be certain deck information or chimneys, but they're all just standard details we typically would have there, depending again on the house and the need there, to kind of help give more information to your builder and permit officials, as far as how to construct, basic information on how to construct the house. The other detail I want to explain as well as this sheet here is what we might call the plumbing location plan or the foundation layout plan. And again, what we're doing here is, again, it's not a structural plan. It gives the overall dimensions and it gives the location of where the plumbing is, so your plumber can locate if he's running some plumbing lines, like especially in a condition where it's a slab floor system where you'd have to pre-plumb all this beforehand before pouring the slab. So it's important to know exactly where the plumbing stacks and are located, drains, etc. So it gives some general information for that, what the elevations of the slabs are of floor systems. But it's a design, it's not a complete, because we want you to work with your local structural engineer or builder to make sure you're sizing this and designing the structural to fit your particular geographical location. But that's it. I was just going to cover at least these few sheets to talk about in each subsequent video. I'll be doing more of the plans to explain what's in a set of plans. But hopefully this was helpful to you guys and gives you a little more of a background information what we're trying to help create our set of plans to help address making your building process as pain-free as possible. This is Dan Sater. Thanks so much.